You're listening to Procurement 6, the weekly podcast from the team at Art of Procurement that summarizes this week in procurement in just 6 short segments.
Hi there, I'm Philip Eidson, and today is Friday, March the 10th, 2023.
6.
This week was a huge milestone for the Art of Procurement podcast. Yesterday, we passed 1 million downloads of the show, which was started all the way back in 2015, with almost 300,000 of those coming in just the last 12 months. And to celebrate, my partner Kelly and I will be recording a special episode next week to publish on March the 20th. There will be a listener Q&A. It's about anything related to the podcast, guests that we've had, certain episodes, or anything behind the scenes. So if you've got any questions for that Q&A pod, all about the first million downloads of Art of Procurement, then please do email them to contact@artofprocurement.com. Or just message our company page or Kelly or I directly on LinkedIn anytime before Wednesday of next week.
5.
Paras Sood has broad senior level experience across the entire procurement value chain. He's worked as a practitioner at a procurement tech company and in procurement consulting. Most recently, Paras was the global head of strategic procurement transformation for Deutsche Bank until he recently made the move back into consulting as a partner at Future Purchasing. And in this week's Art of Procurement podcast, Paras and I actually dug deep into his experience in driving procurement transformations. One of the questions I asked was how Paras thinks about building a transformation roadmap.
I'd say there's a lot of good firms that have transformation kind of frameworks of sorts that can help you shape something. If you've got nowhere and you've got nowhere to start, there's lots of places that can help you shape a framework of sorts that takes you through that kind of that process. But I think that the danger with doing that too much is that you lose context and you can't contextualize it with the organization that you're working with. And that requires actually far more interview-based kind of one-to-one engagement of individuals, teams, etc., which no matter what framework you put in, you get far more understanding of maybe where an organization currently is and even what its appetite for transformation may be before you embark on that framework journey. So I think trying to get the best out of both is important because it helps with that storytelling, but at the same time, trying to be a lot more acutely aware of what the organization's going through is probably more important.
And does that help you then identify more objections as well? So kind of head off potential landmines, so to speak, later on in the process because you've actually got a better understanding of where some of the fears are of transformation up front.
Yeah, I do think it helps remove those barriers to entry, so to speak. And you're always going to have naysayers in that transformation journey. You're always going to have resistors to that change. If you've got a large amount of resistance in a certain area, you know that you probably can't build that into your quick win pipeline of transformation. so you've got to be aware of it, and you've got to. It's not to say that you don't tackle it and you don't try and tackle the uglier, kind of bigger parts of a transformation, because often that's part of the agenda or part of the challenge in its own right. But knowing when to sequence that and when to tackle it and how to tackle it, and it's all about getting the right thing at the right time in that transformation sort of cycle.
To listen to our full conversation, go to artofprocurement.com/podcast.
4.
On a Procurement 6 episode back in January, I brought the story of Bayer creating a supplier code of conduct to provide their suppliers with expectations on how they should expect to work with Bayer. And this had me thinking, is it time for us in procurement to have our own buyer code of conduct? For example, I worked with some companies and came across some companies really throughout my career who are going to remain nameless, who would encourage their procurement teams to do things that I thought perhaps bordered ethical lines to get the lowest possible price. Should we be making commitments to suppliers and potential partners around what they should expect from working with us and why they shouldn't expect us to be doing things like that? These commitments can be around transparency and honesty. They can be about turnaround times, for emails or inquiries or questions they may have. They could even be commitments that we would make that every single supplier invited to a quote or invited to participate in an RFP actually has a genuine chance of winning the business. Personally, I'd love to see us embrace some outside-looking accountability to help us improve the perception of procurement.
This is Procurement 6 from Art of Procurement, To get notified every time an episode is published, go to artofprocurement.com/subscribe. 3.
In last week's Procurement 6, Kelly referenced a blog post based on a session with Joe Peterson at our recent Digital Outcomes 2023 event. Joe has expertise in cloud security, and cybersecurity, but perhaps more importantly for the procurement community, she understands the business considerations and implications of cyber risk. And so today I wanted to specifically call out a part of the conversation and subsequent blog post, which you can find at artofprocurement.com. Now, Joe provided a checklist of considerations that spanned general questions, data-related questions, and contractual questions that should be part of any technology-related contract and sourcing event in terms of the considerations of cybersecurity. Now, specifically for contracting, Joe advised to ensure that a contract includes the other party's obligation to notify you if they detect any breaches, any cooperation requirements if an incident is detected by them or by you, and this may include information or systems they would have to allow access to for an investigation, how they indemnify you or compensate you for financial repercussions related to an incident, and take consideration of the level of access and sensitivity of data, and really that should be guiding the agreements as a whole. So if a provider has access to highly critical information or systems, which could result in significant loss of safety, money, or your reputation, you might consider adding a clause to audit your provider for cybersecurity practices. This clause is typically added only in high-risk situations, however, and also depends on the provider's willingness.
2.
There's been endless talk, including on this very podcast, about the potential of ChatGPT and generative AI. And this week, CRM SaaS platform HubSpot announced the alpha launch of ChatSpot. So ChatSpot lets you ask questions and provide instructions in natural language through a chat interface, querying all of the information in your CRM database using ChatGPT. And as HubSpot users ourselves, we've been playing with this initial release, and it truly is fascinating. But what's this got to do with procurement? Well, frankly, it's helping me to get a better understanding of just what is going to be possible with this technology and the different use cases as applied to procurement. So imagine that you have all of your data in one place: spend, demand, vendor master, supplier performance, external risk data, market intelligence, all that kind of information. Using a prompt, you'd actually be able to ask to immediately see that information presented in any way that you like. So here's an example. You could prompt to tell me all of the suppliers who may be impacted by the earthquake in Turkey. And then say, okay, tell me just the ones that are high risk to me. And then write and send an email or create a form for those suppliers asking of their current status. And then which suppliers should I consider using to mitigate the impact of those who did not respond, saying they have no impact? You can kind of see where this goes as you go through this process. Now, the capability might be a long way away, or it may be just around the corner where you can actually start asking questions, querying information, not having to go through multiple steps in a process to create your own reports, and then actually start asking more strategic level questions of the data. So it's presenting you with actions that you can take, all from just some prompts. When that happens, who knows? Like I say, it could be a long time away. It could be just around the corner. But the only thing for me for sure is that kind of capability is on its way. And that this is really going to have a transformative effect on how we interact with data and the ability of AI, not just to share information from reports, faster with us, but actually to assist in strategic decision-making and actions, the subsequent actions that are needed to implement those strategies. And it's also going to bring much more of a focus, of course, on data accuracy and how we kind of think about data and how accurate does data really need to be. So at this moment, I'm definitely in the observation and experimentation mode, but watch this space for more as I really dig deeper into what the art of the possible is.
1.
We continue to have a large number of upcoming webinars and events at Art of Procurement. I wanted to share details of 2 upcoming events. This coming Wednesday, March the 15th, we are partnering with Lever Data on a 2-hour event called Navigating the Decision Abyss, Managing Direct Spend in Chaotic Times. We're focusing more specifically on data and decision analysis. And then on March 22nd, we're co-hosting a 4-hour virtual event with Upstream that's called Sourcing to Growth 2023. In this event, my colleagues Kelly and Helen will be participating in 2 sessions looking at spend control and how to up your procurement game. Now, to register for either of these events or any of our other webinars, you can go to artofprocurement.com/calendar.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Friday at 6 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time. If you've enjoyed this pod, help us grow and tell your peers to search for Procurement 6 wherever they get their podcasts.